coming out of this pandemic, which we're still sort of in, a lot of people were left leaning on social media as sort of this way to connect with people, or Zoom to just keep them motivated. When you've talked about being in a dark space and questioning if this is something that you even wanted to do, being Hollywood, comedy, acting, how have you been able to push through that? And why do you think it is so important to share your stories, your struggle with the general public?
I was able to push through that by, one, I have a great therapist who really on a basic level just brought things down to a basic level. Like sometimes it just feels like things are so chaotic and hectic and crazy in your head. They start to loom like a mountain that is so daunting, and you start to feel like there's no way I'm gonna be able to get to the top of that. And what I feel like a good therapist does is they are able to just level that mountain down to a molehill for you. And you know, she took what felt like this craziness and just made it like, no, you just got to get confident again. And you're like, oh. And even that word again is like, well, I've been confident before.
Right.
So there's hope in knowing that I've been the place that I want to go. I think there was also just a support system of friends that were willing to listen.
Where do you see yourself in 5 years? I know you have things in the works right now that you said aren't quite, the ink isn't dry, but where do you see yourself?
In 5 years, I want to see my creative work on bigger platforms that are reaching more people. And I know that may seem very like generic, but as a DIY person, that's a big deal because it means like...
And for those who don't know what DIY is, do it yourself.
And you can't do that completely yourself. So it does require a certain level of like trust and giving over to get into these other spaces. And, people say, you got to play the game. You got to play the game. And I just...
Do you think that's what makes you different? So different than a lot of other people here in Hollywood?
Yes, because I have no interest in playing the game. I want to change the game. And... it's not to say that I'm expecting to like do some big overhaul of the business, but I would love to carve a path that lets others like me understand that they don't have to succumb to certain behaviors in order to see success.
Patreon, that's something that you moved to.
Yeah, it's a safe space. Patreon, people are there and they pay a small fee, but they're there because they want to be there to support you. And that's a completely different environment to be sharing and to be giving your thoughts in and creating content in than the wilds of social media, where so many people are not there with support. They're there to troll, they're there to be contrary, and it begins to feel like less of a creative space and more of like a battlefield. So being able to come over to Patreon also allows me to create independent work that is supported financially, right? Because I do like to create content as a DIY person. If you're trying to write a scripted show, that's taking you 2 years to do that. I have a musical that I wrote where I took Wu-Tang records and turned them into jazz, and I'm about to bring that to the screen. I have Smart, Funny, and Black that's going to be a special on screen. I have scripted projects that I'm working on. I have an Audible project that I'm working on. Like, all of these things take so much time, but you still want to like give to the folks in real time. And so it allows you to balance those things.
Right.